One of the biggest theme pavilions at Expo was here, in front of you, just after the bridge. Man, the producer. The pavilion was made of gigantic prisms. Their forms were reminiscent of a multicellular organism. The pavilion Man, the producer exemplifies the spirit of the theme of Expo 67, Terre des Hommes, a place where human solidarity takes precedence over nationalism. The pavilion represented the relationships that humans develop with natural resources, as well as recent inventions and ethical issues relating to new technologies. This expression of social awareness fits in perfectly with the liberalization and openness to the world typical of the 60s. Continue your stroll. After Expo 67, most installations had to be dismantled. At the opening of the exhibition, Mayor Drapeau declares that all means will be used to ensure these islands, and I quote, fulfill their destiny. We must remember that the islands were paid for by Montrealers. Mayor Drapeau keeps his promise. In the summer of 1968, a new public exhibition opens. It is called Terre des Hommes. It is through this initiative that some temporary pavilions remain standing. The site will be in use for more than a decade before being closed in 1981. But for many of the designers of Expo, this is not enough. Luc Durand.
We could have preserved certain pavilions that were built such that they could have been maintained. The Russian pavilion was rebuilt in Russia.
At the first intersection with the footbridge, go straight.
It's a shame that we didn't keep the German pavilion because it was an experiment in structure. Most other pavilions were made to be temporary, and it was understood that we had to demolish them. The Quebec pavilion did not keep its vocation afterwards, and that's a shame, but it's quite understandable since the means of access to the islands were demolished after the exhibition.
And then there were the objectives of Daniel Johnson, who led a unionist government from 1966 to 1968. He held the position of premier until his death. His predecessor was Jean Lesage.
When Lesage was in power during the design phase, government officials and ministers were quite cultured. Under Johnson, who brought the conservatives in afterwards, a whole layer of information disappeared. The goals, the objectives, everything disappeared. It took a long time to rebuild, to regain some pride in being a Quebecer.
When you arrive at the intersection of two roads, keep your left. In time, the original plan of the site becomes unrecognizable. Look ahead. In the distance, we can see the tower of the Olympic Basin. It overlooks the sailing competitions and facilities of the 1976 Olympic Games. This represents the first major change made to Ile Notre-Dame following Expo. We're now approaching the former location of Africa Place. I will wait for you at the beginning of the bridge. For Africa, the 60s are synonymous with decolonization and independence. In all, 20 African countries participate in the exhibition, and 15 of them are newly independent and are represented here in Africa Place. This is the first time that they have participated in a world fair.
Cameroon,
Côte d'Ivoire,
le Congo,
le Gabon,
Ghana,
Kenya,
Madagascar,
Niger,
Nigeria,
Rwanda,
le Sénégal,
la République de Tanzanie, le Togo,
Uganda.
All these countries are grouped in small pavilions around the central square, which emphasizes solidarity and the political developments in Africa at the time. It's an opportunity for these countries to make themselves known, to present their cultural traditions, their economic achievements, and their plans for the future. Now, we will cross the footbridge. Let's stop on the right of the bridge, facing the canal. Try visualizing the surroundings in 1967. The huge pavilion of the USSR, with its convex roof and glass walls, can be seen in this perspective of the canal. The mini rail is suspended in the air to the left of the canal, and behind you, you can see the red tip of the tent of the Ethiopian pavilion. Now let's continue our walk. A little further on, you will cross Gilles Villeneuve racetrack and pass in front of two high pillars. At the next intersection, turn right.
Que peut-on retenir de l'Expo 67? Je ne sais plus ce qu'on peut retenir maintenant parce que je constate que la mémoire est...
What can we learn from this? I don't know what we should retain. Looking down from my 80 years of age, I observe that people have short memories, such as life. I can see how things come together and then separate. How can we tie into things so that they can continue?
Je ne peux pas ne pas vous dire que je suis bouleversé à l'idée de parler de ça. Parce que je suis très frustré de tout ça. Par la suite, tout ça est disparu.
I am upset and frustrated because it's all gone. Expo might be over, but we would like to pursue the experience. That's the problem. Those who lived it like I did came away enriched and filled with enthusiasm, but then they were left very depressed.
Oui, on n'était plus à l'Expo. C'est ça le problème. Et puis, ceux qui l'ont vécu comme moi, intensément, en sont sortis à la fois très enrichis, très enthousiastes et à un moment donné très déprimés aussi.
Expo is also the meeting place of Quebec and the Maghreb countries. It is here, along your route, on your right, that we used to find the pavilions of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. After Expo, many of these countries, now aware of Quebec's interests, will establish diplomatic ties with the province. To your right is a small one-story building that has been highly altered since Expo. It is the old Tunisian pavilion. We are approaching the site of the former USSR pavilion. Let's listen to Pauline Curien.
We must understand that we were in the midst of the Cold War. The Iron Curtain was still extremely strong. The USSR, Czechoslovakia, and Poland were attending the event, and it was wonderful to see these people who were supposedly our enemies. Cuba was there as well. And although the Six-Day War was taking place at the time, the fact remains that Israel was there, right beside the Arab countries.
We will leave Île Notre-Dame in a moment. I'll be waiting for you on the deck of the old footbridge, the Passerelle du Cosmos. We have arrived.